The darkness of space around New Geneva was broken by thousands of alien ships. They moved like hungry sharks through the void, their hulls glowing with strange blue light. These were the Zephyrians, and they had come to take another human world. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet below. His 6 arms moved across the control panels as he studied the human defenses. There were none. No orbital stations, no missile platforms, no shield generators protecting the cities below. How disappointing, he said to his officers. His voice made a clicking sound that the translator turned into words. I expected more from the species that claims to be spreading across the stars. Commander Yistal, his second in command, let out what passed for laughter among her people. Her body glowed brighter for a moment. Admiral, our scouts report that the humans abandoned their defense stations 6 hours ago. They ran as soon as our advance ships appeared. The bridge crew made more clicking sounds of amusement. They had done this dance 100 times before with 100 different species. First came the fear. Then came the desperate attempts to fight. Finally came the surrender and the new addition to the Zephyrian Empire. Kethvar had been conquering worlds for over 300 years. He had seen species that could bend metal with their minds, others that could survive in the vacuum of space without suits, some that were made of living crystal, but they all fell the same way when faced with the might of the Grand Fleet. The humans were nothing special. They had only been in space for 200 years. Their ships were slow and clunky. Their weapons were primitive. They had no psychic powers or special abilities. They were just ordinary creatures who had learned to fly between the stars. Status report, Kethvar ordered. 1,200 ships in attack formation, reported the tactical officer. All weapons charged. The human population centers are locked onto our targeting systems. Any response from their government? Yes, Admiral. They are already broadcasting surrender terms. Something about safe passage for their civilians and protection for their historical sites. Kethvar made the clicking sound that showed he was pleased. At least these humans were smart enough to know when they were beaten. Some species fought uselessly until their worlds were burning ruins. Others tried to negotiate from positions of weakness. But the smart ones simply gave up and saved everyone the trouble. Open a channel to the planet, he ordered. The communication officer's tentacles danced over his console. Channel open, Admiral. People of New Geneva, Kethvar began, using the formal words he had spoken so many times before. This is Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Grand Fleet. Your world is now under the protection of the Empire. You will follow our laws and pay our taxes. In return, we will keep you safe from other threats. You have 1 hour to confirm your acceptance of these terms. He cut the transmission and turned back to his displays. Everything was going according to plan. The humans would accept. They always did once they saw the size of his fleet, but something was bothering him. In all his years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, those instincts were telling him that something was wrong. Commander Ysital, he said quietly. Yes, Admiral? Show me the sensor readings from the edge of this solar system. She looked confused but brought up the data on the main screen. Is there something specific you are looking for? Kethvar studied the numbers carefully. Energy readings, gravitational disturbances, electromagnetic signatures. Most of it looked normal for a star system with one small civilization. But there were anomalies. These power readings near their star, he said, pointing with one of his arms. What are they? Unknown, Admiral. They appear to be some kind of industrial operation. Perhaps mining or energy collection? The power levels seem very high for such primitive technology. Perhaps they are more advanced than our intelligence suggested? Kethvar had conquered enough worlds to know that intelligence was often wrong. But it was rarely wrong by such a large amount. The humans were supposed to be using nuclear power and simple fusion reactors. These readings suggested something much more powerful. Have our science ships investigate those signatures, he ordered. Should we delay the conquest, Admiral? No, but I want to know what the humans are hiding out there. Minutes passed. The human planet below continued its slow rotation. Cities sparkled like jewels on the night side. On the day side, clouds swirled over blue oceans. It looked peaceful, innocent, like a world that had never known war. But Kethvar's unease was growing. He had learned long ago that the most dangerous enemies were the ones that looked harmless. Admiral, called the communication officer, we are receiving the human response. Put it through. A human face appeared on the screen. It was an elderly woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She wore the uniform of their planetary government. "I am Governor Martinez of New Geneva," she said. Her voice was steady but sad. "We accept your terms, Admiral. We ask only that you allow our evacuation ships to continue removing civilians from the outer settlements." "Granted," Kethavar replied. It was a reasonable request. Civilians just got in the way during occupation. Thank you. We also request that you avoid the industrial zones near our star. There are dangerous energy experiments taking place there. For your own safety." The transmission ended. Kethavar stared at the blank screen for a long moment. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever warned him about dangerous experiments. They always tried to hide their weapons or use them in desperate last stands. They never politely suggested he stay away from them. "Commander," he said slowly, "how long until our science ships reach those energy signatures?" "Another hour, Admiral." "And how long until the occupation begins?" "We can begin as soon as we receive final confirmation of surrender." Something was very wrong here. But Kethavar could not put his finger on what it was. The humans were behaving exactly like a defeated species should behave. They were polite, cooperative, resigned to their fate. So why did he feel like he was walking into a trap? "All ships maintain current positions," he ordered. "Wait for my command before beginning occupation procedures." His officers looked surprised. The Admiral was known for his quick, efficient conquests. Delays were not his style, but as Kethavar looked out at the human world below, he could not shake the feeling that this conquest was different from all the others. And if his 300 years of experience had taught him anything, it was that different usually meant dangerous. The Grand Fleet held its position in the darkness, waiting for orders that did not come. And far away, near the edge of the solar system, something was beginning to stir. The space around New Geneva's star began to change. At first it was just a small distortion in the readings, the kind of thing that sensors sometimes picked up near large gravity sources. Nothing to worry about. But Admiral Kethavar had been watching those readings for the past hour, and he knew this was not normal. "Commander Istal," he called out, "are you seeing this?" His second-in-command hurried over to his station. Her bioluminescent patches were glowing bright blue with curiosity. "What am I looking at, Admiral?" "The space near their star. Something is happening." On the main display, the sensor data showed ripples in space itself, like waves on a pond. But the pond was reality, and something very large was about to break the surface. "Could it be a solar flare?" asked the science officer. "No," Kethavar said. He had seen solar flares. This was something else entirely. "This is artificial. Someone is doing this on purpose." The ripples grew stronger. Energy readings spiked to levels that made the ship's computers issue warning alerts. The distortion was taking shape now. It looked like a wound in space, edges sharp and clean as if someone had cut a hole in the universe itself. "Admiral," whispered the tactical officer. His voice shook with fear. "Something is coming through." And then it emerged. The first thing they saw was the nose of the ship. It pushed through the dimensional rift like a blade cutting through silk. Then came the forward hull, massive beyond anything in the Zephyrian fleet. Then more and more. The alien warship kept coming, a kilometer long, maybe more. Its hull was flat black, not reflecting any light from the nearby star. The only color came from thousands of red dots along its sides. Weapon ports. More weapons than most entire fleets carried. "Blessed ancestors," breathed Commander Istal. "What is that thing?" The human ship finished emerging from whatever impossible space it had been hiding in. The dimensional rift sealed itself behind it, leaving no trace that it had ever existed. The massive vessel hung in space like a predator studying its prey. "Admiral," stammered the communication officer. "I'm reading massive power signatures from that ship." "The energy output is—" He paused, checking his readings again. "Sir, it's generating more power than our entire fleet combined." Kethavar stared at the display. In 300 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The ship was huge, yes, but size was not everything. The Gorvani had built ships even larger, and they had fallen to Zephyrian technology easily enough. But this was different. This ship radiated menace from every line of its design. It was built for one purpose only, war. And it was built by people who were very good at it. "How is this possible?" asked Istal. "Our intelligence report said the humans had no ships larger than cruiser class. Nothing even close to this size." Our intelligence was wrong, Kethvar said quietly. More alerts began sounding across the bridge. The tactical displays lit up like celebration lights as targeting systems activated across the human vessel. Every weapon on that enormous ship was now pointed at the Zephyrian fleet. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper, "that ship has targeting solutions on every vessel in our fleet. All of them." At the same time, the bridge went silent. 1,200 ships, and the humans could target all of them simultaneously. The computers required to calculate that many firing solutions did not exist, or rather they had not existed until now. "Sir," said the communication officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it through." The face that appeared on their screen was human, but unlike any human they had seen in their intelligence files. This was a woman with short gray hair and cold eyes. She wore a military uniform covered in symbols and decorations, but it was her expression that made Kethvar's primary heart skip a beat. She looked like someone who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Human Space Force vessel Retribution," she said. Her voice was calm and professional, but there was something underneath it. Something dangerous. "You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal from this system, or we will demonstrate why humanity spent 200 years preparing for this day." The transmission ended. The bridge remained silent. 200 years, repeated Commander Istal slowly. "They've been planning this for 200 years. Kethavar's mind raced. 200 years ago, the Zephyrians had first made contact with humanity. 200 years of watching human colonies grow and expand. 200 years of assuming they were just another primitive species spreading slowly through space. But what if it had all been an act? What if every human colony, every human ship, every human surrender had been part of a larger plan? What if they had been building something like this in secret, waiting for the right moment to reveal it? "Admiral," the tactical officer called out, "I'm detecting more spatial distortions throughout the system." New rifts were opening. Smaller ships emerged from each one, still massive by Zephyrian standards but tiny compared to the flagship, each one bristling with weapons. Each one radiating the same impossible energy signatures. "How many?" Kethvar asked. 50, no 60. "Still counting, Admiral." The human fleet continued to grow, ships of different sizes and configurations but all sharing the same dark, aggressive design, all sharing the same devastating power output. "Admiral Chen," Kethvar transmitted, forcing his voice to remain steady, "surely we can discuss this. The Empire is not unreasonable. We can negotiate terms that benefit both our peoples." The response came immediately. "The time for discussion ended when your advanced scouts glassed the colony on Kepler 442b last month. That was our line in the sand, Admiral. You crossed it, Kepler 442b. Kethvar remembered that operation, a small human settlement that had refused to pay tribute. Standard procedure was to make an example of such colonies, pour nuclear fire on them until nothing remained but glass and radiation. He had thought nothing of it at the time. Just another minor action in the expansion of the Empire, but apparently the humans had thought differently. 15 seconds, Admiral, came Chen's voice again. Around him, his bridge crew looked to him for orders. These were warriors who had conquered star systems. They had faced down species with incredible technologies and powerful weapons, but they had never faced anything like this. "Admiral?" Istal whispered. "What do we do?" Kethvar looked at the tactical display. 1,200 ships of the Grand Fleet, the most powerful military force in this sector of the galaxy, against 60 human vessels that somehow generated more power than physics should allow, and in the center of it all, the Retribution. A single ship that could probably destroy his entire fleet without breaking whatever passed for a sweat among humans. 10 seconds. Admiral Chen announced. Kethvar had spent 3 centuries learning when to fight and when to retreat, and every instinct he had was screaming at him that this was a time to run. "All ships," he ordered. "Begin withdrawal procedures." "Admiral?" Istal sounded shocked. "You heard me. All ships begin withdrawal. Full retreat." But as the order went out and his fleet began to turn away from New Geneva, Kethvar wondered if it was already too late. The humans had been planning this for 200 years. What else had they been preparing? "Wait," came Admiral Chen's voice across the communication channel. "I didn't say you could leave yet." The human fleet moved with precision that made Kethvar's tactical officers weep with envy. 60 ships repositioning themselves to block every escape route from the system. They moved like they shared a single mind, every action coordinated perfectly with every other ship in the group. "Admiral," his navigator reported, "they're blocking our exit vectors. We can't reach the jump points." Kethvar studied the tactical display. The humans had positioned themselves with mathematical precision. Any attempt to leave the system would require going through them. And after seeing the power readings from their ships, he knew that was not an option. "Admiral Chen," he transmitted, "what do you want from us?" "I want you to see something first," came the reply. On the main screen, targeting data appeared. But it was not focused on the Zephyrian fleet. Instead, the Retribution's weapons were pointed at a large asteroid floating at the edge of the system. The rock was about 2 kilometers across. Nothing special. Just one of millions of pieces of debris left over from when this solar system formed. "That asteroid has roughly the same mass as your entire fleet," Admiral Chen announced calmly. "Watch carefully." A beam of energy lanced out from the human flagship. It was not like any weapon Kethvar had seen before. No plasma, no lasers, no particle streams. Just a line of absolute darkness that connected the ship to the asteroid for less than a second. When the beam cut off, the asteroid was gone, not destroyed, not vaporized, not broken apart, simply gone as if it had never existed at all. The bridge of Kethvar's flagship went completely silent. His officers stared at their displays in shock. Several of them were making the low humming sound that their species used when trying to process something their minds could not accept. "Impossible," whispered the science officer. "You cannot simply delete matter from existence. The laws of physics do not allow it." "Apparently," said Commander Istal in a shaking voice, "the humans have found a way to change the laws of physics." Admiral Chen's voice came through the speakers again. "That was our lowest power setting. Your fleet represents approximately the same mass as that asteroid." Kethvar felt something he had not experienced in over 3 centuries of warfare. Absolute terror. Not fear of death. He had faced that many times. But terror at facing something so far beyond his understanding that it might as well be magic. "Admiral," the communication officer reported, "we are receiving panic transmissions from ships throughout the fleet. Some captains are requesting permission to surrender individually. The great Zephyrian war machine was falling apart. These were veterans who had conquered 100 worlds. But they had never faced weapons that could erase matter from reality itself. All ships maintain formation," Kethvar ordered. "No individual surrenders." He opened a channel to the human admiral. "Admiral Chen, your demonstration has been impressive. But surely you do not intend to destroy 1,200 ships and their crews. That would be genocide, would it?" Chen's voice remained calm. "Tell me, Admiral, how many species have you wiped out during your 3 centuries of conquest? How many worlds have you turned into glass and radiation?" Kethvar felt his throat constrict. The humans had done their research. They knew exactly who he was and what he had done. This was not just about one colony on Kepler 4 and 42b, this was about everything. "That was war," he said weakly. "Yes, it was. And this is war too. The difference is that now you are on the other side of it." More spatial distortions appeared throughout the system. Larger ships emerged from each rift. These were not warships. They looked like construction vessels or mobile factories. But they were huge, and they moved with the same perfect coordination as the battle fleet. "Admiral," his science officer called out, "I am detecting massive industrial operations beginning throughout the system. The humans are building something. Building what? Unknown. But the power requirements are enormous. They appear to be setting up permanent installations." Kethvar realized what he was seeing. The humans were not just defending the system. They were claiming it, making it into a fortress that no enemy could ever take. "Admiral Chen," he transmitted. "What are your terms?" The human admiral's face appeared on his screen again. She looked at him with those cold eyes for a long moment before speaking. "Unconditional withdrawal from all human claim systems. Full reparations for every colony you have destroyed. And you are going to carry a message back to every species in this arm of the galaxy." "What message?" "That humanity is no longer prey." The words hit Kethvar like a physical blow. For 10,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the apex predator in this region of space. They had never met a species they could not conquer, a technology they could not counter, a defense they could not break. But now there was something stronger, something that had been hiding in plain sight for 2 centuries. building and planning and preparing for this exact moment. "Admiral," Commander Istal said quietly, "what about the other fleets? The second and third armadas are only days away. Surely we can—" "No," Kethvar interrupted. "Look at what they built in secret while we thought we knew everything about them. What do you think they have prepared for the other fleets?" He opened the channel to Admiral Chen again. "Your terms are accepted. But I must ask, why did you wait so long? If you had this technology, you could have stopped our expansion years ago." For the first time, Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Because we needed you to believe you were winning. We needed you to commit your full strength to one decisive battle. We needed you to bring your grand fleet close enough to our trap." "Trap? Did you really think we only built one ship like the Retribution?" "Admiral, you are looking at the smallest part of our fleet. The real navy is still hidden, waiting for your empire to send everything it has against us." Kethvar felt his world crumble around him. The humans had not just built a defense. They had built a weapon designed to destroy the entire Zephyrian Empire in one coordinated strike. "How?" he asked. 200 years of being underestimated," Chen replied. 200 years of letting you think we were weak while we prepared for this day. 200 years of your people seeing us as just another primitive species while we revolutionized everything. We thought we knew about physics and warfare." The human admiral leaned forward on her screen. "Every human colony you destroyed bought us time. Every retreat gave us more data about your capabilities. Every surrender let us study your technology without you realizing it. The colonies that surrendered easily were full of our best scientists and engineers, collecting intelligence on your occupation methods, learning how you think, how you fight, what weaknesses you have." Kethvar understood now. The entire human expansion into space had been one massive intelligence operation. Every contact with the Zephyrian Empire had been carefully planned to gather information while revealing nothing important about human capabilities. "Begin the withdrawal," he ordered his fleet. As the Grand Fleet turned away from New Geneva, Kethvar took one last look at the human ships. They remained in perfect formation, weapons still locked onto his forces but holding their fire. "Admiral Chen," he transmitted, "the galaxy will not believe this report. They will think we are lying or cowards. That's why you are going to show them the recording of what happened here. Every species needs to understand that the rules have changed." The transmission cut off. The Zephyrian fleet began its long journey home, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Behind them, the human construction ships continued their work, building defenses that would ensure the system could never be threatened again. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. The news from New Geneva spread across the galaxy like wildfire. At first, nobody believed it. The Zephyrian Grand Fleet defeated by humans? Impossible. The humans were a minor species with primitive technology and no special abilities. They were farmers and traders, not warriors. But then the recordings began to circulate. Video files showing ships emerging from dimensional rifts, sensor data proving impossible energy outputs, and most shocking of all, footage of an asteroid being erased from existence by weapons that should not work according to known physics. On the Altarian homeworld, the High Council gathered in emergency session. These were beings of pure thought, existing as patterns of energy in crystalline matrices. They had watched the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations over millions of years. "The implications are staggering," announced First Speaker Veltar. "If the humans have developed dimensional manipulation technology, they may have access to unlimited energy sources." "More than that," replied Second Speaker Kornan. "The weapon that erased the asteroid appears to work by unmaking the fundamental forces that hold matter together. They are not just manipulating physics, they are rewriting it." Meanwhile, on the Corvani battle stations, military commanders studied the tactical data with growing alarm. The Corvani were warriors by nature, their entire society built around concepts of strength and conquest. But even they could recognize when they were outmatched. "Look at these formation patterns," growled General Thakvar, his cybernetic implants glowing red with agitation. "Perfect coordination between 60 ships. No communication delays, no tactical errors. It is as if they share a single mind." "Perhaps they do," suggested his aide. "Our xenobiology reports indicate that humans have been experimenting with neural interface technology for decades." A hive mind that retains individual creativity and initiative, Thakvar mused. The tactical advantages would be overwhelming. In the corporate boardrooms of the Venetian Trade Federation, executives calculated the economic implications of human dominance. The Venetians were merchants first and foremost. They cared little for politics or warfare, but they understood profit and loss better than anyone. Our entire trade route through Sector 7 passes through systems the humans have claimed, announced board member Silvas. If they decide to impose tariffs or restrictions, it could cost us billions. Worse, replied Chief Executive Morden. What if they decide to eliminate the middleman entirely? Those construction ships they deployed at New Geneva could build manufacturing facilities anywhere. They may not need our trade networks at all. But it was on the Zephyrian homeworld that the real panic set in. Emperor Jaskol sat on his crystal throne, listening to Admiral Kethvar's report with growing horror. You are telling me, the Emperor said slowly, that a single human ship could destroy our entire navy? More than that, Your Imperial Majesty, Kethvar replied. Admiral Chen indicated that what we saw was only a small part of their fleet. They have been building in secret for 2 centuries. We have no idea how large their real navy might be. The throne room fell silent. The Emperor's advisors, some of the most intelligent beings in the galaxy, could not find words to respond to this revelation. What of our allies? The Emperor finally asked. The hegemony of 6? The Stellar Confederacy? Surely together we can— Your Imperial Majesty, interrupted the intelligence chief. We have received reports from our embassy on Helix Prime. The Confederacy has already sent a diplomatic mission to the human colonies, offering a non-aggression pact and trade agreements. And the hegemony? They have recalled all military vessels from human-claimed systems and issued a formal apology for any misunderstandings that may have occurred in recent border incidents. Emperor Jaskol slumped on his throne. The greatest military alliance in galactic history was crumbling in fear of a species they had dismissed as primitives just days before. On Earth, in the buried command centers that few people knew existed, Admiral Chen met with the other members of the Human Defense Council. These were the people who had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. The psychological impact has exceeded our projections, reported Dr. Sarah Kim, the head of xenopsychology research. 23 different species have sent diplomatic overtures in the past week. Most are offering significant concessions in exchange for non-aggression agreements. And the military situation? Chen asked. General Rodriguez, commander of the Hidden Fleet installations, smiled grimly. The Zephyrian 2nd and 3rd Armadas have both returned to defensive positions around their core worlds. Our intelligence suggests they are building fixed fortifications rather than planning offensive operations. What about the other major powers? The Corvani have withdrawn from 3 contested systems and are requesting formal border negotiations. The Altarians have offered to share their historical archives in exchange for a cultural exchange program. Even the Devourers have sent messages indicating they wish to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements. Chen nodded. The Devourers were perhaps the most feared species in the galaxy. They consumed entire ecosystems to fuel their biological technology. If they were backing down, the message was clear to everyone else. Phase 2 can begin, she announced. Across human space, the hidden construction projects that had been running for decades suddenly accelerated. Entire asteroid belts were converted into raw materials. Mobile shipyards that had been disguised as mining operations revealed their true purpose. Dimensional rifts opened in supposedly empty space, revealing massive industrial complexes that had been built in parallel universes. The galaxy watched in amazement and terror as humanity revealed the true scope of what they had accomplished. Not just one impossible ship, but hundreds. Not just advanced weapons, but entirely new branches of science. Not just a defense force, but the foundation of a new galactic order. On the Zephyrian frontier worlds, panic buying stripped the markets bare as civilians tried to stockpile supplies for a war that might never come. On the neutral worlds, governments fell as populations demanded new policies toward the humans. On the core worlds of every major empire, intelligence services worked frantically to understand how they had so completely misjudged humanity's capabilities, but perhaps the most telling response came from a small research station on the edge of explored space. The scientists there, members of a dozen different species, sent a single message to the human colonial administration. We surrender our independence and request admission to the Human Protectorate. We have studied the data from New Geneva and concluded that resistance is not only futile but counterproductive. We formally request human protection from other galactic powers and offer our services in advancing the cause of interstellar peace. It was signed by representatives of 12 different species, including former enemies of humanity. Admiral Chen read the message with satisfaction. This was exactly what they had hoped for. Not conquest through fear, but voluntary alliance through demonstrated strength. The galaxy was reshaping itself around humanity's new position at the top of the food chain. And unlike the Zephyrians, who had ruled through intimidation and exploitation, the humans were offering something different: protection in exchange for cooperation. The old order of endless warfare between rival empires was ending. In its place, something new was being born: a galactic community where disputes were settled through negotiation rather than genocide, where weaker species could develop without fear of conquest, and where the strong protected the weak instead of preying on them. It had taken 200 years of careful planning and sacrifice to reach this point. But as Admiral Chen looked out at the stars from her command center, she knew it had been worth every moment. The first human battleship had emerged from hiding, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the incident at New Geneva, the galaxy had settled into its new reality. The Zephyrian Empire, once the terror of 3-star sectors, now spent most of its resources on defensive preparations that everyone knew would be useless if the humans decided to attack. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly completed Fortress Prime, humanity's first permanent deep space installation. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the construction fleets working on additional defense platforms. Each one was a marvel of human engineering, combining technologies that had been developed in secret over 2 centuries of preparation. "Admiral," called Captain Martinez as he approached with a data tablet. "The weekly intelligence briefing is ready." Chen took the tablet and scrolled through the reports. The news was exactly what they had hoped for. The Altarian Republic had officially requested human mediation in their border dispute with the Corvani Empire. The Venetian Trade Federation was asking for human protection of their merchant fleets in exchange for preferential trade agreements. Even the mysterious Voidwalkers, who rarely communicated with other species, had sent messages expressing interest in cultural exchanges. "Any hostile movements?" Chen asked. "None, Admiral. The Zephyrian fleets remain in defensive positions. The Devourer swarms have actually pulled back from several systems, apparently to avoid any potential conflicts with human colonies." Chen nodded with satisfaction. Fear was a powerful motivator, but it was not sustainable in the long term. What they needed was respect based on demonstrated competence rather than terror based on superior firepower. "What about the integration programs?" "Proceeding ahead of schedule. The research station that requested admission to our protectorate last month has already begun sharing their xenobiology data with our science teams. The preliminary results suggest we may be able to develop medical treatments that work across species barriers. That was important. The humans had not revealed the full extent of their technological capabilities at New Geneva. The dimensional, manipulation, and matter erasure weapons were just the beginning. 2 centuries of scientific development, guided by the greatest minds in human history, had produced breakthroughs in every field imaginable. But the most significant advancement was not in weapons or industry. It was in understanding how different species thought and what motivated their behavior. The entire human expansion into space had been one massive anthropological study, gathering data on alien psychology and social structures. "Admiral," Martinez continued, "we also have the first reports from the deep exploration missions." Chen looked up with interest. Phase 3 of the human plan involved expanding beyond the known regions of the galaxy. While other species had been content to fight over the same systems for thousands of years, humanity was preparing to find new worlds and resources that would ensure their position remained unchallenged. What did they find? 17 new star systems suitable for colonization. 3 of them contain rare elements that don't exist anywhere in explored space. And Admiral. Martinez paused, looking both excited and nervous. "One of the systems contains ruins." "Ruins?" massive artificial structures on several planets, clearly built by an advanced civilization, but showing no signs of current habitation. The exploration team estimates they are at least 50,000 years old. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. 50,000 years ago, most of the current galactic civilizations were still developing language and agriculture. Whatever species had built those ruins had been incredibly advanced, possibly more so than modern humanity. Any indication of what happened to the builders? None yet. But Admiral, some of the technology appears to be intact, if we can understand how it works. Chen nodded. Humanity's rapid advancement had come from combining human ingenuity with careful study of alien technologies. Every species they encountered had contributed something to the collective knowledge base that made human dominance possible. But this was different. This was technology from a species that had achieved interstellar civilization when the rest of the galaxy was still primitive. The possibilities were staggering. Establish a research facility in that system immediately, she ordered. Maximum security. I want our best xenoarchaeologists and technology specialists on site within the month. Already in progress, Admiral. The construction ships departed this morning. Chen smiled. That was what she loved about working with military personnel who had been part of the long-term planning. Everyone understood that humanity's current position was just the beginning, not the end goal. A communication alert chimed, and Chen activated her personal display. The message was from Earth Central Command, marked with the highest priority codes. Admiral Chen, came the voice of Director Harrison, the head of the Human Colonial Administration. We have received formal requests from 47 different species for inclusion in the Human Protectorate. The applications are being processed, but we need to discuss expansion protocols. Chen was not surprised. The Protectorate had been designed as an alternative to the old system of imperial conquest. Instead of forcing species to submit through military defeat, humanity offered protection and technological advancement in exchange for cooperation and resource sharing. It was proving to be incredibly popular with smaller civilizations that had spent millennia being bullied by the major empires. For the first time in galactic history, they had the option of joining a power that was strong enough to protect them, but did not seem interested in enslaving them. What's the timeline for full integration? Chen asked. Conservative estimates suggest we could have over 100 member species within 5 years. But Admiral, we're going to need more than just military protection. These civilizations need infrastructure development, economic integration, and cultural exchange programs. That was the next phase of humanity's plan. Military dominance had been necessary to establish their position, but long-term stability required something more sophisticated. They needed to build a galactic community that was more prosperous and secure than what had existed before. Begin Phase 4 protocols, Chen ordered. Start with the most strategically important applications, but make sure every species feels valued regardless of what they can contribute. Understood, Admiral. Chen ended the communication and returned to watching the construction fleets. In the distance, she could see the first of the new exploration ships being assembled. These were not warships like the Retribution, but vessels designed for long-range reconnaissance and first contact with unknown civilizations. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only explored a tiny fraction of it. There were undoubtedly other species out there, some potentially more advanced than anything they had encountered so far. The key to long-term survival was to find them before they found humanity, and to approach them from a position of strength. Captain Martinez approached again. Admiral, there's one more item in the intelligence briefing. The Zephyrian Emperor has requested a personal meeting with Director Harrison. He wants to discuss formal recognition of human territorial claims. Chen laughed. 6 months ago, the Zephyrian Empire had been preparing to add Earth to their list of conquered worlds. Now their emperor was begging for a diplomatic audience with human leadership. Tell the director that I recommend accepting the meeting. But make sure the emperor understands that he's requesting an audience, not negotiating from a position of equality. Yes, Admiral. As Martinez walked away, Chen reflected on how completely the balance of galactic power had shifted. The old empires still existed, but they were no longer the dominant forces they had been for millennia. Humanity had demonstrated that intelligence, patience, and long-term planning could overcome even the most entrenched military advantages. The first human battleship had emerged from its hiding place 6 months ago, and in that moment, everything had changed. The galaxy was no longer a place where the strong preyed on the weak without consequence. It was becoming something better, a community where different species could coexist and prosper together. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. The universe was full of dangers and opportunities that humanity had not yet encountered. The real test would come when they met their first truly equal opponent, or when they discovered threats that even their advanced technology could not easily handle. Until then, she would continue building the foundation of human dominance, ensuring that when those challenges came, humanity would be ready for them. The age of human leadership in galactic affairs had begun, and Admiral Chen intended to make sure it lasted for a very long time.